Okay, so as many of you can tell, this is an issue that, we have what we would call maybe a Band-Aid on right now. It's something that I think probably everyone would agree with, that we have a lot of work to do in this building. And so just to kind of go back just on my perspective of this whole situation, coming from outside of town, I'd heard things about City Hall. I got here, I did the tour as well. I'm like, wow, we have a lot of work to do here. So one of the first things that I did was visiting with the mayor and asked if he could give me some recommendations for some names for a committee to start the whole conversation about what do we need to do to solve this problem. And so he gave me some recommendations, which I went with. And what was interesting about the committee, so we've had 2 meetings so far, and the second meeting, it was apparent that we did not completely agree with each other. And I would call it even like a 50-50 split. Like, this is kind of this whole City Hall conversation is quite complex, actually. We have quite a few different options that we have considered, and I know that the city has considered in the past. So a couple of those would be, first off, just repairing this building, right? That's the obvious one. The second one was remodeling this building, and I think some of you have heard that there were some different costs that were thrown out in the past. There was and just to give those to you now, remodeling here was $9 million approximately. And then there was another option, which was going to the North Denver building. Have some of you heard these options before? Okay, you've heard them. Okay. So that one was also about $9 million. And then a third option was building new, and this was all based on the same square footage, approximately 22,000, okay? And so that was approximately $11 million. So I think some of you, when you first hear that, you're like, ooh, sticker shock, right? I see some wows in the audience. So, and then another one that I'm interested in looking at is could we remodel maybe at a lower price point with not as much square footage? That's an option I'd like to look at. So another thing that we're going to be doing after this is that we want to send out a survey, and I've got the survey here. I'm going to be kind of asking the questions to this group so that we can have a good dialogue about it. But for those that weren't able to come either last time or this time, we'll give them that opportunity to take the survey. So from tonight, it'll be really good to hear from all of you, and I'm going to let this just naturally progress into what it is and what you all think. I want to, I'll do a part where we can just do a Q&A, and you can ask any question that you want to, but we'll just let it naturally progress and see where it takes us. But the goal is, as soon as we have like the data or the information that we got from meeting last time, and this group we'll collect your thoughts. We'll collect the thoughts of, from the survey. We're just data collecting so that we can share that with our city council members, because they have a hard job right now. With all of the different opinions about this building, it is hard to say like what is the best thing to do, but we want to provide them with as much information as possible. And this being a key part that we, as end users of this building, we want to know what's your experience been with this building? Is it an okay building? Well, I don't know if we'd go that far as saying okay, right? But has it met your needs in the past? Do you think it meets the future needs? We're going to jump into those questions here pretty soon. So ultimately, we want to be able to get back together with that committee too and compile all this data and provide maybe a recommendation to City Council at the end. So one thing, I know that you all want to ask this question, so I'm just going to talk about it. So why has there not been maintenance on this building for such a long time? See, you were going to ask that question, weren't you? So I can't really answer that question necessarily because I've been here for 2 months. But I don't know. Yes. Yeah, but I actually have not talked to either of the administrators prior to me, so I actually haven't talked to them. Yeah, so what?
Like a basic question.
Yeah, well, But here's what I think, though, is whatever has brought us to this point, what matters most is what we do now and moving forward.
I don't agree.
Okay, so we'll.
I don't want to agree to a new building if you can't take care of it already.
Okay, very good.
It's nice, the why is what we didn't know about the overpass. The why is what we didn't know about the building at the park. The why is we don't know here.
Okay.
The why is like
Yeah.
important.
Well, I can only give you my best guess because I really don't know that answer. And I would say that, I mean, this is simplistic, but the priorities of this building it's not been the priority. They've funded other things of priority that they felt were more of a priority. I don't know the answer. Yeah.
So why isn't there stuff?
So, but before we jump into the whole, I want to get a little further before we jump into this, okay? Before we do the Q&A, because I have some specific questions I'd like to ask you. So, but let me tell you that moving forward, so we had a department head meeting this morning, and we talked about how we can move forward in the best way, and it was very clear talking to the department heads that we all agreed that we need to have like a facilities manager of some sort, because let's just say the city has, I don't know how many buildings we have, let's say it's 100, right? So we need someone that goes through and says, okay, these 10 buildings are, in the next 5 years, they have to have their roof replaced. All of these things that a maintenance manager for the whole city is going to look at and keep us on track. That's what we need to do, I think. So it was very much in consensus that would be like the sort of recommendation that I'm looking at our council members, come to them and say, hey, I think the whole community would support this sort of a position so that in the future we don't get into a situation like this again. So I see quite a few heads going like, yeah, we need to do that. So, and then another thing that people have been mentioning, like on social media, that I've just been observing is that, that $9 million cost, that's really just kind of like hits you pretty hard. Like, really, do we have to spend that much? That's why I want to relook at some of the costs that have been provided before and see if we can't come up with something that might be less expensive.
Do you have a line item for that, like so much for the roof and so much for the foundation, so much for the asbestos, so much for the
So, well, we'll get to.
Get the 9 million. Did you just guess, or do you have quotes?
I want to come back to that question. We'll get to the Q&A in just a little bit. We will answer that question. So here's the survey. I want to kind of gather the group's thoughts on this. I also want to kind of look over here and have staff give some of their insights who have been a part of this. So by raise of hand, how many of you utilize City Hall, and this could be a council meeting or whatever brings you here, right? Once a week. Okay, maybe one. Okay, what about 1 or 2 times per month? Okay. That helps. Once every 2 to 3 months, raise your hand. Okay. Once or twice a year. So we have a mixture. It just kind of helps to see the usage, right? Okay. So I want to get your thoughts on the following items. So raise your hand if you feel the following are important to you. Energy efficiency. It's kind of an obvious one, right? You would think, but it's not, right? We have outdated windows and things that make this building not super energy efficient. Okay, this is gonna sound like a silly question, okay? But it's important to ask. Should the city be leading on adopted fire and building codes, following those? Right? Okay. So definitely, no matter what we do, we're going to fix that stuff. For all of you, how much is the overall cost kind of like your biggest factor in this whole thing? Is cost kind of like the biggest thing? So basically, you would choose out of the options, you would choose the lowest cost. Who's not necessarily the lowest? Not necessarily. Okay, that's good. So anyone that would say the cost is kind of their number one, raise your hand. Or, okay, that's good information. Tell me about this room. Does this kind of meet the needs of residents? Would you say this size of a room?
This room is too small
Too small?
because the citizens of this city have learned that we need to monitor the people that sit in those chairs.
So
I
most,
think in the past it probably was, but since we've had such a bad council and mayor in the last few years, that's why people are down here more often.
so do you think, just going back to, let's stick to my question. We'll do the Q&A after. We could go down a rabbit hole real fast here. Could we not? So okay, for those of you that think that this is like an okay space, this works for our needs, raise your hand. For those that think this is not big enough, please raise your hand. So it's kind of a mix. I would say that was almost like a 50-50. That's really actually quite interesting. Okay, here's another funny question. Should we be leading by making sure our building is in accordance with Americans with Disability Act? Please, everyone, raise your hand. How important is low operation and maintenance costs? If that's important to you, would you raise your hand? I would say if total cost is, this probably is to you too, right? Okay. Talk to me for a second. Have these windows ever bothered you coming to city council, or not really, as a safety concern? I'm curious.
Different colors they have outside.
Different,
Sense of building off, I like that.
the different colors?
Different color windows, some are tinted, some are not.
But you know, what I mean by that is that we live in a weird day and age these days where someone could say, some angry citizen, right, could come and try and, these are just big old windows with not much protection. Does that bother, if we were renovating, would you like to see that fixed so that you bring up the windows higher and make it, so if you'd like to see that kind of fixed, please raise your hand so I know. Okay. Yeah. Yes. So that, I would say most people said that that's something that we should do. What about parking? Is parking sufficient by raise of hands here? Okay. Okay. I know we had for a while a drive-up window option. How many of you would like to have a drive-up window option here for City Hall, or is that not? If you do want it, raise your hand. Not so much. Permits would be about it. Yeah. Okay. What about do we have any developers in the room? Actually, I know there's one right there. Anyone willing to raise their hand to that question for a second? Chris? Okay, there's one. So how important would it be, because I know there's been some conversation about having so development services is in this building, but we have engineering and utilities are in the other building. From a construction perspective, would it be nice to have that in the same location for you, or is that not a big deal?
There's times to be nice, but with today's day and age with emails and everything else, you got to remember too, people, we live in Hastings. It is a 5-minute drive from here to
So
in Denver. It's not going to take us 45 minutes to get across town. We could get every department head in this place together in a 5 or 10 minute drive to one location.
So it's not like a deal breaker. It's not, okay, that's helpful. So by raise of hands, how many of you feel that City Hall meets current needs of the city? Most of you. What about, does this building meet the future needs of the city? So mostly yes. Mostly yes, if it's fixed, right? We'll put that contingent upon fixing it. Yeah, okay.
It meets the needs of the future as it exists, or
Fixing it, I guess. Yeah. Okay, very good. And okay, so I have one more question, and then I'm going to do some Q&A here. So tell me about the importance of having City Hall in this building. I'm going to kind of open it up actually right now. Let me ask this question. So how many of you would like to see City Hall stay here? In here, this building. I'm saying this building right now. Okay. How many of you downtown? It doesn't matter that it's this building, but downtown. Okay. How many of you, other location wouldn't really matter if it were like the North Denver station? Okay. Interesting. All right. Okay, that was interesting to get the group's thoughts on some of those different things. So I'm just going to open it up. Any questions that you have, just raise your hand. I'll bring you the mic so everyone can hear you, and we'll take turns here.
I just had a couple questions. I've lived here a year and a half, though, and so I don't know everything. But I just, from being around, it seems like there's not a lot of trust in our city fathers here. So that's one thing. And another thing, I walked around the building and I heard a lot of structural problems and stuff. I didn't see any cracks in the walls. I didn't see any of that kind of stuff there that they said that there was some major structure problems. I even went down when we went downstairs. First thing they said was, the structure, and all that. And I didn't see anything. For as old a building as this is, it looks like it's pretty sound. And one other thing was the $9 million it takes to renovate this. Did they take 3 bids to come up to the $9 million, or did they just take one bid and generalize? And that was the main reason I brought up that there's not a lot of trust in what's going on up here because of what the viaduct, because they only had one bid for like the steel that was taken out of the viaduct. They only had one company that bid on it, and that just don't make sense to me. Okay.
Thank you. That's a good question. It's really good. I'm coming over here. You're up, Mr. Lee.
So I guess, I don't know if this is working. As far as the $9 million in that was provided by the architect on purely a square footage basis. At that snapshot in time, he helped us look at what the needs were for each department that would be in each location and what their space or size requirement would be. And again, it was just based on what they'd seen on other buildings as far as if you were going to remodel, it was X dollars per square foot. If it was going to be new, it was whatever dollars per square foot. And that's how they came up with those 3 estimates for here, North Denver, and a new building. We didn't get into bidding it. I mean, we didn't have a scope of work set to bid it. It was just preliminary numbers, again, based on purely square footage.
But they're asking us to make a decision on the $9 million. He probably did the high end.
Oh, I'm sure, yes.
Yeah, so
Yes.
in
So.
real life, maybe it's only going to be 3 or 4 million or 5 million.
Well, I mean, we don't know the exact number until you bid the project.
That's what I mean, but you're asking, for
Sure.
So where was this architect from?
Grand Island, CMBA, same architect that did the schools here in town. So.
Okay. Who has? So if you want to make a comment, I'll pass it around.
So are you saying that then if you just did certain very important basic things like asbestos and radon and maybe all that basement work, that maybe it could be divided or something, because the rest of the building doesn't look too bad.
Especially this room. It looks really nice.
This one looks okay to you.
I think that goes back to Shawn's comments to begin with on which path we take as far as if it's the repair or the remodel and how deep we go into the remodel. So.
And I want to ask that question right now. Would you all, okay, so with the repair, it's just like, we're talking foundation, roof, it's nothing aesthetically changing at all. How many of you, by raise of hand, want to just see a repair option? And then the other option, how many of you would like to see more like repair remodel, where we kind of bring this up, making it look nicer, update it? Please raise your hand if that's more you. Okay. Okay. Yes, sir.
My question is, if all the departments were in one location, is this building adequate to house them all? It seems like there's a lot of empty space around here. And I don't know, because of issues or whether it's not utilized or whatever. So does the whole thing need to be brought up to date, or is there adequate space that's just storage?
Right now, the basement is more kind of a storage area. And with the current staff that we have, I think you could use this main level and upstairs for the current staff that we have. With the current staff that we have, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Shawn. I hope you don't think we're shooting a messenger because you haven't been here long enough to blame yet, but
Pretty safe.
the gas department built a building, I don't know, 5 years ago maybe, and I think Lee helped design it, maybe Marty too, I don't remember exactly, but in the winter, things are a little slow. They do safety training and update on different gas projects and stuff, but the crews built the bathroom, and they decided we'd get the air compressor upstairs out of the way, it'd be quieter, give us more square feet, and the guys in the gas department built the bathroom with floor joists that'll hold a truck, and saved probably $1,000 or more. I believe the street department has the equipment to remove that driveway. The parks department has a bucket truck to fix the trim, and the superintendent owns a whole bunch of rentals around town, has knowledge and experience. And they all have slow times in the winter. Why don't we use the staff we got and save several $1 million?
Thank you for that. I think that there probably would be some things that you could do internally, and I think some things probably not. Next question.
I would like to know why the mayor and the city council members aren't here answering these questions, because they leave you, who are brand new to this, to field the questions, and you don't know the answers. We have 2 city council members who are here, but they're brand new, so they don't know either. But we don't have people responsible here to answer the questions.
I don't know.
You work with them?
I don't follow their schedules. No. The mayor and council. I work for the mayor and council. So.
No, I just want to leave it here because I think we got the courthouse, Adams County Courthouse is across the street. We have a wonderful parking across the street, but to relocate it, I think we need to keep our business down in this area of Hastings.
You know what? The thing that I'd like to say is, like, I know the Community Redevelopment Authority and the Downtown BID, has really worked hard over the last 25 years to keep activity downtown. We've spent millions of dollars, and to move City Hall out of that takes that many more people out of the area, and I think that's one thing too that we want to watch.
Yeah, great comment. Let me come back here. I'll come back to you.
Well, we get the number 9 million to renovate the utility building, or 9 million to renovate this building. But for 25 employees, which I think Lee said we have here, that's about $350,000 to renovate space for each employee, which seems like it's astronomical for what would be practical. Certainly we can do much for this building for less than that.
That's a good observation. Yeah. I think what makes this kind of unique, this sort of a building, is we have a room like this where, it's not just for space for employees, but there's quite a bit of meeting space too, which kind of makes that a little bit different.
The city has been known for tearing down old buildings. It's been going on for years. So my comment is if this building was built in the 60s and the power plant was built in the 20s or even maybe before, why on earth would anybody even consider on moving it to the plant? It don't make sense to me, because that may be the next building that's going to come down. Another thing is that somebody brought up that why wasn't somebody here to answer our questions? Well, the thing of it is, the mayor and some of the council members haven't been here long enough to maybe answer some of these questions, but I think it should have been that maybe somebody in the past could have been here. Even if they ask them, it would have been the thing to do. Ask them. They're going to get some hard questions, I'm sure, but somebody, a city official sometime down the line, should have been here.
Who's on the committee? Can you tell?
Yeah, sure. One of them is right here, Chris. We have, and we've got this listed online too, but we've got Lee is on the committee, Marty is on the committee. Oh, yes. Kim is on the committee. You're going to have these names better than me, our outside.
Trent Kelly.
Trent Kelly.
And Dave Rippey.
And Dave Rippey, yep. So, yeah, good group of people. Someone else had their hand raised. Oh, yeah, you had it first.
First of all, I have a couple comments. Thank you for hosting this. When I heard that you were doing these tours, I think there's some historical grievances in the community that you may not be aware of. Some justified, maybe some not, but I think it's important I didn't turn around to see how many people raised their hand, how often they utilize the building, but there's an awful lot of opinions about the building when people haven't walked through it, so I think it's a great opportunity you gave for people to walk through the building. Second of all, thank you for being here in our challenging community. Thanks for taking the job. I know as a younger person, I appreciate that, because when you ask the question about, does the building serve the current needs? Is it going to serve the future needs? I don't see a lot of young community members, no offense to older community members in the crowd, but not being from Hastings originally, kind of being a transplant myself, I want to stay here. I have a young family. I think that obviously wise spending is important. I feel that, wise use of tax dollars is important. But I guess to get around to a question would be, although all municipalities are slightly different, are there municipalities that have streamlined things to make things more efficient in terms of building space, staff? I'm all about, saving resources. Are there examples of other communities that have had to do similar things to, make things more efficient?
I'm going to give you the general answer of yeah, I'm sure there's tons of examples out there. And I think that's probably part of the reason a remodel was looked at as one of the options, because that's an opportunity to rethink, redesign the space for the best use, like you're saying. You all are great, by the way. You've been a good audience, to me, anyway.
I kept all of the articles that I found in the Tribune concerning this idea of what to do with the city building. Should we move it to Hastings Utilities or should we not? And at the time, it was brought out, and this is just one tiny little piece of a very interesting bunch of information, that there was $19 million available to fix this building. But instead of using it, the council and the mayor and the then administrator decided to defer it for 2 years. Here's the question that I have. Has the group, whomever is going to be making a decision about this, thought about putting it up for a vote of the people of the city?
That would really come down to what people want to do. because as we all know, there's been several referendums. My thought on that is I think that if we have meetings like this where we can all discuss it beforehand and you get your voice out there now, what would be the need for a referendum later if we do this all up front? It's kind of my thought, but I don't know, maybe people feel differently about that. Yeah, that's why then, huh? I see.
I personally just don't trust this city government, period.
Yeah.
I just had a comment in reference to the age group here. There may not be a lot of young people here, but the ones that are here are older and wiser and more experienced and probably know a bit more than the younger folk do. So maybe if we listen to them, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in right now.
I think if they do the remodel and stuff to take care of your drainage problem on the exterior, they could have pipes, a system in there to drain the water away from the building so it won't enter. Also, they could do exterior and interior and through the floor to mediate the radon instead of having to have these fans and stuff. You know, you need a professional to do that, but I think they could do an excellent job.
Thank you.
So if they decide to build a new building or move it to the utilities, what would they do with this building if they moved it?
Good question. That's what, to be determined, right?
Still a cost.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
As far as the other buildings in Hastings, is there any kind of maintenance log as far as what maintenance has been done? I mean, I would assume since there's a budget, if you spend money, there's a log of it, so you should be able to go back through the receipts and determine what maintenance has been done by who and what maintenance hasn't been done. And as far as the windows, since the blinds are always closed, you could just block that off and then we wouldn't have to worry about getting shot. Although I'm not worried.
So I think, and this is a little bit hard for me to answer since I haven't been here that long, but basically each department's kind of been just managing their facility maintenance, like parks. They know each of their facilities and they're keeping track of their needs. And so it's kind of been up to like each department to kind of manage that. And so, for good or bad, maybe that depends on who's in that department, whether, that's going really well or not. But that's why I think it's important to have that centralized person who sees everything and gets it in the right order. You know what I mean?
I think that's a good idea. I know utilities spent a lot of dollars on tuck pointing a few years ago because it needed it, and I think Marty led the gang on that and got it done, and I'd highly recommend following through with that. Also want to comment, don't you think it's kind of nice for people to have a chance to talk?
So you all appreciate this.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, and I just want to say though, kind of my view on this whole local government thing is that we serve the people. And so providing opportunities for things like this as town hall is good. It's good to hear from all of you as the users of this building and to know how can we best serve our community. So I'm glad that you all have enjoyed this so far.
I had a chance to read the article from the Tribune from this morning's internet post. And somebody in there had already taken my thought, and they said that whoever redid the public schools in this town did a beautiful job. They made those old buildings keep their character, but made them beautiful. And I like to say I really support that, and it would be really nice to be able to use the same people. I mean, they did a great job.
Did they? And I just saw a lot of people kind of going like this. They did a really good job. That's interestingly, the last group, someone else brought that up about the school district that they kept it looking like the original, but updated it. And I think that's what a lot of you are kind of do what they did almost. Is that?
Yes, the age of the building.
Yeah. So like internally, we could make this look quite a bit better too. And, okay.
That was going to be my comment. The schools did a great job. Saved the citizens a lot of money. And I think if you ask the teachers, the administrators someday, if they want to go new or do what they did, they would say they love the renovation. So let's save these old buildings. Let's make them something new. We can do that. We have the technology.
Thank you.
Does anybody, I don't know what the cost was per square foot on the schools. How does this cost compare to that? They just got done doing Morton, so we're not very far removed. So let's do a little comparison. What do the schools spend per square foot? What are we looking at here? This is $409 a square foot.
Yeah. I'll have to go take a tour of the schools, it sounds like, so I can see what everyone's talking about.
Brett Kelly's on your committee. He was a key instrumental person in getting those buildings ready.
Just a comment about this meeting is that it's much appreciated in the past, and I'm not talking like the last 3 years, 5 years. I'm saying 10, 15, 20 years ago, we have not had a voice to say what's been going on, and city council and the mayor particularly did things behind our backs, and that's why we're so distrustful now, because it's been done to us before, so we think it'll be done to us again.
Can we get a list of the receipts for the repairs on the building? I mean, like when the last roof was put on the building?
Could that be public knowledge?
It would be. Yeah, I mean, basically every single council meeting that the council approves expenditures is all public knowledge, and you could go on there and look at every single cost would be on the website.
But you don't know off the top of your head when the last roof was.
30 years. 30 years, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
If it's all right, let me comment about that. So we've had a lot of leaks up there, and so I got Zimba Roofing. Everybody knows Zimba Roofing. I got them up there, and we were able to find there's some writing on so they got that tells it when it was manufactured, and it fit their records. So we just wanted to verify, and it's over 32 years old. These are 20-year roofs, so for the last 12 years, it has not been maintained. Zimba Roofing does a great job. They come in and do free inspections and do that. Nobody's been inspecting it. When it did leak, they would send up basically staff to go there. What we found was they were just using silicone caulking. You can't do that on those rubber roofs. It needs to be done correctly. When I got involved, they came up and helped me, they patched them all. We just had a leak here the other day. It's getting such bad shape that when we put the patch on it, then when it got cold, the patch, shrunk just a little bit and just tore the old apart. It's beyond. It needs to be replaced. But here's my problem. I can't see underneath that membrane. It's been leaking for a long time. I can look up underneath the decking. There's a concrete deck, reinforcement. There's a metal pan in there. Metal pan's getting into some bad shape. So until we take the roof off, we can't really tell how bad that decking is. We need a plan, because if we take that roof off, we don't want to put a new roof back on there. And I got people in the building. I mean, we've got to somehow seal it up and keep the water from running in during that repair. So there's a lot of unknowns to that, but that roof should have been replaced 12 years ago. So that's all I can say. So if you want the receipt, it's more than 30 years old. That's all I can tell you. Does that help?
Marty, is it a black rubber roof?
Yeah, it's an HDPE membrane. And part of the problem too, Chuck, is that they didn't go up and over the parapets. So we've got a lot of water running in there. And we've done that on all of those roofs at the utilities. We went up and over, put the flashing on it, did it right. But back 30 years ago.
Maybe you can't answer this. Most of those black rubber roofs had rock on it.
Yeah, there's rock up there now.
There is?
Yes, and what we found was, as you know, sometimes they blow into there, so there was something open. But there's also roof drains up there, because all that water runs in there. They were clogged up, so it was just sitting full of water up there. The HVAC units up there, they're all come apart. Sometimes it rains right through those. there's just been, my answer would be, there's probably not much in the way of documented repairs, because it just hasn't been. I went up there and I sealed up all the joints as best I could, because you could look up in there and you could see light, where you shouldn't see light inside of a ductwork that doesn't have things, so, yeah.
So why, after Zimba told you it's been 30 years since this roof has been fixed, didn't somebody take the initiative to see to it that the roof got fixed?
We
has it
told them that we needed to get that done, the council, but it needs to be part of an overall plan, because just to put a new roof on there, like I said, that decking underneath there really needs to be looked at. Otherwise, you could end up spending, wasting money. So what we did was we patched it, but another leak showed up here. But we're at the end. I mean, we've done as much as we can to get us to this point. So we're trying not to waste the money. We need a plan.
So you think a new roof would be beneficial to protect what's here now so that you still work on it though?
Yeah, I mean, we ultimately need to get to that point, and I would agree that we need to do that, but we also need to make sure we do it right, that we can look at that decking underneath there so we don't make a mistake. But if we know that we're going to do remodeling, yes, we need to get to that as quickly as we can. So it's just a matter of getting that decision made to move forward.
This kind of goes back to the question, why? Because Dave Wacker will tell everybody that he told the city, put a roof on it. And that would be a long time ago. I don't know how long Lee's been here, but I think people who knew told him, council, city administrator, mayor, I don't know. And they ignored him. That's why if somebody is hired to do all this property management, they better have teeth, because people aren't listening.
Yeah, if we have someone who's generally over all that, that's something that, they're going to provide a recommendation of, here's all these items that, are in queue that need to be done and would be considered in capital requests.
So earlier you said there was what, $12–15 million set aside? 19 million? So why hasn't some of that been used to keep this building updated and fixed?
Good question. And actually 19, I think, holds true today. The financial audit, we're doing a work session coming up here, and I believe that's the cash that we have in the general fund.
There's also the American Wrestling Fund, and the city gave $750,000 to a nonprofit here, matched with 25.
The Boys and Girls Club?
Huh?
Is that the boys? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, YMCA.
And that was a gift from your council and mayor, I'm letting you out, to a nonprofit, and we have this. So.
But you get a walk free of charge.
Yeah.
No, it looks to me like all of the problems that we're discussing and what we saw tonight, everything is lack of maintenance. And so if you repair it, if you remodel it, if you build a new one, the same thing is going to happen after so many years if you don't maintain it. So you can't throw away that money, put it somewhere else, and just let it start deteriorating.
You're absolutely right.
With all the inspectors that are employed in this city, how could this building possibly, no, I mean, this is not a joke, because if it was my house and the inspector comes, he can kick me out of my house, he can fine me, but we have a city building that's in this condition, and all the inspectors are employed by the city. Somebody should answer this question for every citizen in the city as to where they are.
Well, I would say that they don't control the purse string.
No, but they're the inspector. If they have authority, I mean, like the police chief, he could arrest somebody for coming in here with a gun, even if he's not supposed to be here tonight. But your city inspector, if they have integrity, how could they walk through this building, see it falling apart, the concrete out there, settle them?
I can answer that question for him.
so-
He wants to keep his job.
Like you, he worked for the mayor.
Yeah.
So I would say, I would say that those positions, I mean, they can make a recommendation of things that need to change, but if money isn't allocated towards it, they don't have control over that. So, but I'm not gonna speculate on this one because I don't know, or yeah.
Well, you can tell that there's a lot of people upset, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So all this does pass code though, right? I mean, everything in this building passes code?
No, it doesn't. Nope. Yes, sir.
Yeah, going downstairs, I seen the shag carpet on the wall. It's been there since 1962, and then they're saying there's mold in the building.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, and then I seen the dehumidifiers out in the hallway. That's something for a 1,000 square foot house or something. It just, I don't know if they're putting on a show for us, that they're trying to do something. No offense, no offense. I know it. I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to pick on you, but I just shag carpet on the wall. Nobody's seen it. I mean, okay.
No, the shag carpet on wall, some of it has been removed where they could, but it was just used for soundproofing when it was the bank, and it was just part of that, but it's just, and you think, well, yeah, just take it down, but it's all glued on there. It takes, I did get an estimate to get a contractor in there to get that done, but it's one of those things that by the time you do it, you really need to kind of get the people out of the building. It's easier to do it all in one, but if you kind of do it piecemeal, it just gets more expensive, so we just need a plan.
Why didn't they condemn the building if there's so much mold in it? You got people working in here. If you did that in our home, they'd kick you out, say you can't live here until the mold's gone. You can't sell a house, you can't do anything with black mold in it. I just don't understand that part of it either.
I think they've answered the questions. We work for, yeah. I mean, all we can do is we recommend, we've done it, but I have to say we've tried to make it better, and we've done. So don't see that what we've done is mitigated. It's just bought us some time till we can get a decision made. I mean, yeah.
So
I think we should sell it as an antique.
So
but that's make some money.
I think that we're almost to the point where we're kind of getting into repeating some of our comments, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time tonight too. I hope that you all have felt that you've been heard tonight, that it's been worth your time to come, and I appreciate everyone that's been participating in this and getting us here tonight. We hear what you say, and thank you for sharing your thoughts. I think we'll...
Is there just one committee?
Yeah. So I think we'll leave it at that if that's all right. One final question? Okay.
Do we have, as a city, as a community, like a value statement or a core value? I mean, what are we about? Do we want to maintain and be good stewards, or do we not care? Is there anything like that?
I know the city has like a mission statement, and one of the things, I'm not sure, it probably is on there. Oh, did it? Okay. So that's one thing. We have a council retreat, and that's something I would like to bring up as a mission statement, values statement, that sort of thing. Eventually, I'd like to do some strategic planning when the time feels right. So, what's that?
When's the council meeting?
The council retreat, I think, was early May, if I remember right. Yeah. So,
Is the full membership of the committee published somewhere, and I just didn't see it, or whatever? The committee for the building.
For City Hall. We've put that out there on our social media site, so you could find it there. If you'd like to go to the city's Facebook page, is there. So, all right. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.